Thank you so much for watching. This is Warren Redlick. Hello, hello, hello. We are going to talk about a whole lot. I've got a lot of material for you. Real quick, I reached the new level of 2,750 following on X. This is an accomplishment. Some people think that the 100,000 followers is a big deal, but the 2,750 next 4,269 will be a big deal. And then I'm pleased to report once in a while, better than most people in the world, Elon replies to me on X. Elon has this thing about artificial general intelligence leading to a need for universal basic income, or what he calls universal high income. And I have disagreed with him in the past, and I continue to disagree with him. I said I don't see why he's confident artificial general intelligence and robots will lead to universal high income. I'm concerned that this is awfully close to each according to his need, and I'm concerned that many humans will wither without the need to work, because he was talking about universal high income again. Everyone will have the best medical care, food, home. There's a lot of dystopian fiction, the opposite of utopian fiction, dystopian science fiction, where we go to an advanced state of the world and the rich people live on a satellite above Earth and regular people live in despair and in terrible conditions on Earth. Ready Player One's a great example where lots of people are struggling on the edge. And Elon said, he didn't say he wanted it. He said, this will happen whether I want it to or not. And I, like, well, why are you so confident? He didn't answer, like, why he's so confident. So this is one of those things, like, if I ever got the chance to talk to Elon about stuff other than Tesla, this is one of those questions where I would be like, wait a minute, why do you believe this? Is he Hari Seldon from the Foundation trilogy, and there's some sort of psychometric, sociometric philosophy, or has he been to the future and he knows? I don't know. So it's entertaining. Hello, everybody, and thank you for the congratulations. So let's go to Tesla news. The first thing, I think a lot of people are excited about Model Y performance. We've got the Model Y L in China, and probably going to be coming here to Thailand and maybe to Europe. We've now got the new Model Y Performance. I believe the new Model Y Performance right now is Europe. I don't know if it's coming to America yet. It says Tesla Europe and Middle East. I don't know that it's been announced in the US. I thought that was interesting. Hope you behaved yourself today. If you're not, you'll be corrected. Jim Manley is in the chat. Jim Manley loves to criticize me, but he means well. He's not the typical troll. It's a polite troll. So anyway, a lot of details about Model Y performance. To me, the details are like details. Fundamentally, it's fast, it performs well, it looks a little cooler, but lots of little details that matter a lot if you're driving at the edge, and a lot of little bits and higher range. This is a detail that I think it was limiting factor pick up on this. Jordan Giesecke, more range thanks to new high density battery cells with increased charge capacity. What? And we don't know. What does that refer to? Where are those? Are those LG cells? Are those? They're not CATL. Is it Panasonic? Is it Tesla manufactured cells? It's probably LG or Panasonic, but we don't know the answer to that question. So that was interesting. And then here's some pictures of the new Model Y performance. Quiet cabin. Some of these details are like new Model Y has this. Quiet cabin, we have that. Heated and ventilated sport seats in first row, we have that. But with added bolstering and side cushions that hold you in your seat, I suspect that Model 3 performance also has that, although I'm not sure. Highest resolution 16-inch center touchscreen. I don't know if that's different. And at the end of the day, you can lean back and let FSD supervise drive you home. That's another topic. Behave never, 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 never. That's another topic is FSD. This is, I think, probably the bigger topic that's hitting Tesla right now is FSD is in Australia. So Jason from Tech AU, I've met Jason. I think I met him in Austin once or twice. I don't remember if it was just Cyber Rodeo and shareholder meeting. Probably just one of them. Maybe it was Cyber Rodeo. I don't remember. Great guy. He says Tesla FSD supervised is boring. Watch it take 40 plus roundabouts like a champ. So he's been driving FSD a lot in Australia, and he's been very impressed with it. That's really super positive. EV Straya, I don't know if I've seen EV Straya before, but Elon reposted him, and I should say, I think Elon replied to this or responded to this. EV Straya says, I'm truly in shock. Tesla full self-driving drove me the entirety of this route without a single intervention. Oh, another thing, my daughter was asleep in the back after her soccer game and woke after we got home. Points for smoothness. So huge drive in Australia. Tesla FSD is performing extremely well in Australia. They drive on the other side of the road from America. Right, I'm here in Thailand. We drive on the same side of the road as Australia. Japan drives on the same side of Japan drives on the same side of the road as Australia, on the left side instead of the right side. So the fact that FSD is performing well in a country where they drive on the other side of the road, another another good sign. Many good signs, but another good sign. Okay. And then a little detail here. I have this constant back and forth with Mayor Thacker, who I love when it comes to plant-based foods, and I sometimes love him when it comes to Tesla topics. But I think he's got a little bit of smarter than Elon diseases or some sort of Elon derangement syndrome. I'm not sure what's going on with Mayor, but he says here that robotaxi won't be ready at scale in Europe, China, and India for another 5 to 10 years, maybe 10 plus for India. This is, first of all, false. Europe, I can agree that there will be issues with Europe just because European governments are messed up. But China will adopt robotaxi before half the United States. China has already approved FSD. FSD is already operating. It's operating in the U.S., Canada. I don't know about Mexico. It's operating in China already, and it's operating in Australia. Why would China be slow on adopting robotaxi? China's tech forward. China is the most tech forward country in the world. China is going to love robotaxi. China wants to lead. They don't want to be waiting. Look, Massachusetts is going to be thrilled to be last to adopt FSD and robotaxi, right? Michigan will be thrilled to be last. Illinois will be New York, whatever. There will be states, the blue states in certain places, especially like if you're a blue state and you're a car manufacturing state, like a big three, legacy auto car manufacturing state, you might be thrilled to like hold off on robotaxi as long as you can to protect your dying industry, right? Or because you hate Elon. But, Florida, Texas, and California are going to have robotaxi, and then China doesn't want to be behind California. China wants to be in the lead. China's going to adopt robotaxi. This is dumb. India, this is the thing. India doesn't matter, okay? Because the cost of human driver, I'm in Thailand. The cost of human drivers in Thailand is so low that there's no point in delivering robotaxis to Thailand and India and Malaysia and Vietnam when the human drivers are so cheap. If you've got a car and you can have it drive for $1 a mile, right? Or 60 cents a kilometer, whatever you call it. Why would you have it try to compete with human drivers in India and Thailand where they charge 30 cents a mile or 50 cents? You don't want to compete. You're not going to send your robotaxis into places where you can't make as much money or can't make money competing until you've saturated the markets where you can make money. So the United States, Europe, Australia, large countries, the wealthy countries, you're going to see robotaxi first in volume. There's no point in running robotaxis in India when human drivers are cheaper. I don't think people realize how cheap it is to get a human driver to take you somewhere. I've had taxi rides for $2 in Bangkok. We've had taxi rides here for $3 for my mother-in-law to take the kids to school, then my nieces to school, $3. Robotaxi can compete with that eventually, but why would you bother when you can make 3 times as much money running in America or twice as much money running in China? So this is just, I don't know where he lives. I don't know where he spends his time, but this is clueless. Then he says a 4-door, 4-seater version of the Cybercab for $30,000 US dollars would sell millions of units annually. What? The Toyota Corolla was the best-selling car in the world until Model Y displaced it. Much less than $30,000. Sold about 1 million units a year. I think the Ford F-150 had a period where it was selling close to 1 million units a year in the US. But the idea that you're going to get Cybercab, a 4-door... First of all, how do you make a 4-door, 4-seat version of Cybercab? I don't even know how you get the idea that you just slap a couple more seats in the back. It's not designed for that. So it's absurd to say it's going to be millions annually. $30,000. And, India, you can't sell... The volume of cars sold in India for $30,000 is tiny. Yes, it's a huge country. Yes, it's the 3rd or 4th largest car market in the world. The average car in India is sold for like $10,000 or less. That means if you go like standard deviation, a couple standard deviations up, you get to like $25,000. $30,000 and up, the market's extremely small. It's not going to sell in high volume in India. It's not. I'm sorry. It's a fantasy. And like BYD, I just posted on X recently that we were walking and I saw in the wild, I've seen it in auto shows before, but I saw the BYD M6, which is an electric vehicle, 6-passenger vehicle. It sells for $26,000 and it seats 6. You're going to sell a car that seats 4 and you're going to sell more? A 5-passenger BYD Atto 3, very popular car here in Thailand, $23,000. In Thailand, the price is cheaper in China. These prices are less in China. It's probably like $17,000. I don't know what they charge for an Atto 3 in China, but it might be like 17 grand. Like, you're going to sell a car for $30,000 and you're not going to sell millions. It's just, and your margins, the thing is when you sell lower priced cars, there's so much competition, the margins are lower. What do you want to push for? Do you want to continue to try to compete in the dying market for selling cars, or do you want to push forward to compete and win in the high margin world of robo-taxis? Very clearly what the right answer is, and Mayer very clearly doesn't get it. Let me look at the chat really quick. Mark says my bus is still $1. That's good, Mark. Transit system in Bangkok can cost, I think I typically pay like $1.50 in Bangkok for the transit system. The buses are cheap, but the transit system itself, the trains. Sawati Nong? I can say Sawati Nong like night? I don't know. Sabaidi. Andy is talking to me in Thai in the chat. So yeah, car insurance will be destroyed too, absolutely. All right, so let's move on here. Just a quick thing. I'm not sure how, Grok is not always reliable. Connecting the Dots has a video right now about something to do with problems with Optimus because of the hand, and I don't know where he's got it from, and I suspect he's wrong, but I haven't watched the video yet. I just saw a post on X where he says this is a big deal, and I'm not confident he's right, but I didn't watch it, so I don't know. But Thunderbolt says, Grok, what's new with Gen 3 Optimus? And Tesla's Optimus is in final design stages. Prototypes expected end of 2025. Key updates include an OLED face display for better communication, vision-only AI training, tactile hand sensors. We know there's a very, very complex hand, 20-kilogram carry capacity, faster walking, improved battery life, aimed at factory tests and household chars, priced around $19,000. I think most of this is inaccurate or winging it. It's kind of funny that Grok can get things very wrong when it relates to Elon's companies. And Elon, just talking about Grok. Sorry, Elon has been going crazy on X. There's a few things he's been going crazy around. He was on a kick where he was posting lots of images of sexy women. And it might have been Ani, the companion on Grok, or it might be images of sexy women generated by Grok. Here's Devora, a woman generated this image, and Elon showed with this post, if you long press on an image, you can generate a video through Grok. So this was the video that was generated through Grok Imagine. There's a lot of stuff. I've been using Grok Imagine quite a bit. I use Grok a ton. I encourage you to use Grok, have conversations with it, whatever you're thinking about, whatever you're excited about, whatever you're curious about, whatever you're trying to understand. If you ask Grok, I'm not saying Grok is always correct. I'm not saying Grok results are always perfect, but I have many conversations with Grok every day. And I find it helpful in understanding things I don't understand. There's some post on X about, I'm very active on certain political topics I don't talk much on YouTube. And so somebody posts something in that topic and I'll ask Grok, because you can click the Grok button on a post and you get a feedback from Grok, and then you can ask Grok questions and you learn more about the topic. And as much as I thought I know about, let's say, the Israel-Arab conflict, I've learned a lot by asking Grok and getting more details on things I had missed. So am I just using Grok to reaffirm my pre-existing bias? Maybe, but I think I'm learning a lot of details I didn't know before. And if you just started watching, I hit 2,750 following on X, and some people think it's a big deal that I had 100,000 followers on X. Please follow me on the X platform. I am chasing dreams. We'll be talking a little bit about one of the small dreams I'm chasing shortly. Starship. This was earlier today or maybe yesterday. Dima talked about Elon choosing steel over aluminum. Aluminum can easily melt from re-entry. Steel is far more resilient. Steel doesn't require paint. Elon said stainless steel is an amazing material, can also just weld on attachments easily. This was like a big thing that Elon did, is they were doing carbon fiber for what I think was called the IFT or something like that. There was some other name for Starship. And they were going to do this big carbon fiber ship. It's going to be very expensive. And Elon made a bold call, which is why founder-run companies really matter. Same thing with Bezos and Amazon. Same thing with Gates and Microsoft. Same thing with Zucker and Facebook. Generally speaking, founder-run companies, the founder can make bold decisions. They're not always right, but if you want a company that, if you end up with a Tim Cook running your company, do you get bold decisions? Not so much. John Scully, not so much. You want Steve Jobs and you get bold decisions. And you need that founder who can force things through and make things happen. And the fact that Elon pushed SpaceX towards going to stainless steel was a huge move. A lot of people thought it was crazy, very bold. It's looking like the right call as usual for Elon. And then real quick about SpaceX. SpaceX Falcon 9 completes the first 30th launch and landing of an orbital class rocket booster. So, Falcon 9, the Falcon, and this Gwynne Shotwell is pumping this, and Elon reposted, from learning to land a rocket to flying the same booster 30 times. Congratulations to the SpaceX team for continuing to make the impossible possible. Falcon 9 the booster is supposed to be good for 10 launches, and they've just done their 30th with one of their boosters. The point is that when you're launching payloads into space, if you use your booster and you can't use it anymore, if you lose it once and you crash it, then you don't reuse it, then your cost is much higher because you have that cost on one launch. If you can use the same booster 10 times, you amortize the cost of the booster over 10 launches. You have some refurbishment cost, making sure it's ready for the next launch. But as you improve, your refurbishment costs less, your cost per launch goes down. Why Starship matters so much is because if you reuse the second stage, and like Falcon 9, they reuse the nose cones as well. The more of the rocket you reuse, the lower your cost per launch. And Starship is going for not only reusing everything, but reusing it quickly. And this can mean that Starship could, and also they're using a less expensive propellant, Methalox instead of RP1, I think, which is a dramatically lower cost. So you end up with a Starship launch may cost less than a Falcon 9 launch, delivering far more payload and far more capability. So this is exciting. Let me just check the chat here. Nong is the platform of address for someone younger than yourself. Oh, like Nonka? Nomcop? I would say Nomcop to get a waiter or something like that. P-Cop? Okay. MSM seems to have difficulty finding FUD on Tesla FSD. Oh, they have no trouble finding FUD on FSD. They keep pumping FUD. Aaron says, Warren, if I want to build a small fleet of robotaxis, should I buy the cheaper Y next year or hope Tesla sells Cybercab? I don't know the good answer to that question. There's an open question about whether they're going to let us put our vehicles in the fleet. I think it was in the earnings call, they talked about what's going to have to happen to let people put their vehicles in the fleet. I suspect if you have a fleet, you're more likely to get approval because it's like they're going to have some sort of approval process, and I don't think it's going to be a high priority. So I would not put a lot of investment into that yet. And I think if you get to that point where Cybercab is being sold, it might cost a lot. So I might buy the Y. I might buy Cybertruck. Cybertruck might be particularly good in the fleet. I don't know the answer to the question, though. M3 will be cheap. Yeah, Model 3. I think the Model 3 rear-wheel drive standard range would probably be the least expensive way to get into the robotaxi network. Repetitive landings and launches still a ways away for Starship. I think it's next year. I mean, I think they're going to try to land Starship itself, the upper stage, next year, maybe. No, before they called it BFR, it was like interplanetary or something like that. I forget the name of it. Not interstellar, interplanetary. Big Falcon rocket. Yes, Gwynne said Gwynne said Big Falcon rocket. She emphasized Falcon. Tate says Cybercab is 2-passenger, super low capital investment in low labor cost countries that driver boosts its capacity to 50%. So Cybercab could have some merit in India. 80% of rides are one person. 90% of rides are two people. Every Indian car that's taking people for rides has room for 3 or 4 people in it. It doesn't work. I'm sorry. I'm not saying there's no point in the future where Tesla will be able to deliver a robotaxi that will outcompete human drivers in India and Thailand. I'm just saying the profit generated by running robotaxis in poor countries is going to be much smaller than the profit generated by running robo-taxis in rich countries. So you have to saturate the market in rich countries first until your profit per car has fallen enough that it makes sense to move and start running robo-taxis in poorer countries. If I'm running Tesla, I want to maximize profit. And not only are you maximizing profit, you're maximizing consumer surplus. You're maximizing the value to others. Andy says Falcon 9 booster just done 10 reflights in 1 year, so 1 month turnaround. Yeah, well, no, but Starship is going to be different. You know, the Falcon 9, they're not trying to turn it around that much. I believe they have turned around and launched a booster again in less than a week. I believe they have done it with a Falcon 9, but it's just not a high priority because investing in improving Falcon 9 is like investing in improving your horse when you got a car. What do you think Tesla price will be in 2026 or 2027? Is there any supporting evidence from previous prediction? I'm betting that Tesla stock will be way more than $1,000 a share by the end of 2026. I mean, I've actually placed, long-term call options on that bet. So yeah, I think by the end of 2026, I think we're going to see more than $1,000 a share. If it turns out to be $800 a share, I still win the bet. Most of the bets. How am I feeling? Sorry. FSD supervised, unsupervised coming soon. I think so. No robotaxi in Chiang Mai. I just don't think that robotaxi will be competitive in Thailand for a while. Not that it couldn't be competitive, it's just it's not going to be a priority. Okay, so let's move on. So one of I'm going to move away from the Teslas and company news and shift more to a lot of stuff that Elon has been talking about lately, or that I think it might be important to talk about otherwise. We're going to get into the extreme stuff soon, but because he got political, he's been very. I'm not going to do much on Elon being political. I'll do a little. This is loosely politically related. China is rapidly increasing energy production, in particular solar. The U.S. has been flat. U.S. nuclear has been flat. U.S. solar has been rising a little bit. China nuclear has been rising. If we want to compete with China, America has to produce more electricity. Europe, screwed. Europe is not going to scale electricity production. America needs to increase electricity generation production. Electricity generation just has to happen, or we're not going to be competitive with China. And if you want to, it's a reference to the Kardashev scaling race. The Kardashev scale is what percentage of your first Kardashev 1, what percent of the energy that your planet has do you use productively? Okay, so there's all this sunlight falling on Earth and we use very little of it. There's some other energy generated on Earth, but the sunlight is the big one and we don't use very much of it. Kardashev 2 is you're using all the energy generated by your star. Kardashev 3 is you're using all the energy generated by your galaxy. Elon believes we will be meaningfully approaching Kardashev 1 civilization within 10, 20 years. I think that's very optimistic, as in we use as much energy as sunlight falls on the Earth. I don't know why he's so confident, but Elon's confident about things that I'm surprised about. Interplanetary transport system, Jim. That was the one I was thinking of. Interplanetary transport system. Thank you, Jim. See, Jim, we don't always have to fight. So there was that, and then there's also this. Only the US and India still generate more electricity in total than China does with solar alone. In 2 to 3 years, Chinese solar will eclipse total generation in India and then the US, unless we dramatically change course. And Elon agrees with this. And it's like the Secretary of Energy I keep seeing clips or posts about him talking, and he's anti-solar, he's anti-wind. He's like, oh, this is a bad thing. And it's like, and I think Elon is just going to route around him somehow. I think Elon's just going to start building massive solar farms to feed, XAI's data centers and Tesla data centers. I don't know. What is my call option? I have several call options for January 2027 at different strike prices. I have one call option or one set of call options for December of this year at I think $550 a share that I might lose on. The other ones, I think the big the big order is a strike price of 600, but some of them are maybe as high as 830 or something. I don't know if I went to 900. And these are all, other than the one that's December of this year, they're all in a Roth IRA. So the idea being, if I win big, I want it to be in the tax-free account. Pataya bot bus for 10 bot for any duration, going around in circles. Sure. Jimmy asks, do you buy any stock besides Tesla, and how many shares do you own at what cost? So I don't disclose how much Tesla I own, but I am a Teslainaire. I'm not wearing the Teslainaire shirt. I'm wearing the Cybertruck shirt, but I am a millionaire thanks to my ownership of Tesla stock. I don't get into the details of it, and I don't buy any other stocks. I have been looking at the possibility of selling some Tesla stock to buy into VC investments or special purpose vehicle investments into especially Neuralink, probably not SpaceX, Boring Company if it became available, XAI if it became available. And let me just talk about those a little bit. First of all, you have to be an accredited, you generally speaking have to be an accredited investor to get into these. I apparently qualify as an accredited investor because I have more than $1 million in my portfolio that's not dependent on ownership of a home. Typically there's a minimum. My experience was the minimum was like $25,000 in theory, but in practice, a lot of times the real minimum is $100,000 or more. So if Neuralink became available, and when you make that investment, when you buy stock on the stock market, you can sell it tomorrow. Most investments you can sell what's called, they're liquid. You can sell them quickly. If you buy into one of these special purpose vehicles, one of these VC private equity type investments, you might not be able to sell your stock, or it might be very difficult to sell, or you might have to sell it. You might have to take a hit when you sell. It can be a real challenge when you, so it's what's called illiquid. You're sort of stuck until there's a liquidity event. There's an IPO. There's some other kind of transaction that frees up your stock and you can sell it. So I think Neuralink is going to 10,000x. I'm not kidding. 8 billion customers. The total addressable market for Neuralink is 8 or 9 billion, depending on when you're talking about, because I think its population is supposed to grow past 8 billion to 9 billion. The total addressable market, let's say in a year, is way more than 100 million people a year. And almost everyone who has a Neuralink is going to upgrade every 3 or 4 years. Right? You see all the people upgrade their iPhones every year or two. Can you imagine if you had something that was like 10 times better, 1,000 times better than an iPhone, and there was an upgrade? And it makes you more productive at work, and it makes your life better in so many different ways. So 100 million customers, new customers a year, and then 3 years you have 300 million customers, and 100 million of them want to upgrade. And you keep going, and then like, is it really 200 million new customers a year? And you're probably talking about a $10,000 price point. And you're saying, oh, people can't afford $10,000. If it increases your productivity, you can afford $10,000. You can borrow to finance it. They'll probably have financing, and then they'll make profits on the interest. The value of Neuralink, I sometimes think Boring Company will be crazy valuable, but it's like there's taking them a long time to scale. But I think Boring Company could ultimately have 100,000 miles of tunnels or more charging tolls in dense populations. So I think Neuralink is just huge. XAI has huge potential, but I haven't figured out the revenue and profit model for these AI companies. I'm not saying it's not there, just haven't figured it out. With Tesla's real world AI, I see the business model. I don't quite get the business model. And, do you really have a competitive edge? Or is there somebody else selling the same thing that, charges a little bit less, and so many of them are free? Like, I haven't figured out how you monetize Grok. I'm not saying it's not monetizable. I just don't see it. Elon probably sees it, but Mark says only 1% of USA land and power entire USA. Yeah, but we need to cover 90% of Earth's surface with solar panels and generate so much electricity that we can power massive AI data centers to power the artificial superintelligence that's going to, 1,000x the quality of life for everyone. Elder adoptive brother. Solar is cheaper than wind. I believe that's correct. We only need to put solar and battery on every commercial and business buildings. I've been shocked at how many places, when you think about it, you see all these big buildings with empty flat roofs, and you're just like, oh my God. And here in Thailand, where the sun is basically overhead and it's sunny all the time. Large scale offshore wind is most transformative. Solar for land. I think floating solar arrays might make, I don't know. Most homes will benefit from 1,000-watt marine turbine. Interesting. At 20,000 miles per month, you'll replace your car faster. Tesla now testing robotaxi in Las Vegas boring tunnels. I did not hear that, Mark. I did not hear that. If you can email me or send me that, I have not seen that about testing robotaxi in Vegas boring tunnels. I would love to see that happen. Okay, so we covered that. Just quick, Elon, one of the sort of political topics Elon likes to talk about is the birth rate, fertility. Senator Mike Lee was talking about population collapse in Scotland. Elon says unless the birth rate gets at least gets back to replacement rate, Europe will die out. This is true for most countries. I mean, South Korea is leading this problem. Mike Lee says if Europe experiences full-blown population collapse, we can't just recreate it. There's some crazy stuff happening in the world with population collapse, and Elon talked about it a little bit more here. This is again Mike Lee. UK as a whole faces staggering birth rate crisis. So does the rest of Europe. Elon saying unless the birth Europe will die out. Elon reposted Mike Lee on this. Now, interesting point. Okay, there's a lot of talk about violent crime. And so Rob Henderson, who's a guy, I encourage to follow Rob Henderson. He's an interesting guy. He says 1% of the population is responsible for 63% of violent crime convictions. So I asked Grok, what percent of children are fathered by these men? So Grok says, based on Swedish studies, violent offenders have higher fertility, average 1.22 children versus 0.74 for non-offenders among men. They're like they don't have almost twice as many kids. No exact percent for the top 1% available, but a cited UK study shows the 10% most antisocial men fathered 27% of children. So if you lock up all the criminals, you're going to drive down fertility rates. And I'm not saying what's the right answer on this or what's the wrong answer on this. I think ideally we would like to get the non-violent men to father more children. Maybe we would like the women to start choosing to date non-violent men. It's a fascinating little detail. I'm not saying what's right or wrong. I just thought, I saw that and I thought, there's this thing that Jordan Peterson talks about how women are attracted, and lots of people talk about women are attracted to men with dark triad traits, which women tend to be attracted to more aggressive men. Well, more aggressive men commit more crimes. I don't know where this goes. I didn't take this further than that. I just thought that was interesting. All right, so another thing Elon's been talking about, both with X and XAI, is how popular the apps are. X app has now been downloaded over 2.5 billion times on the App Store. It's the number one news app in the US. It's the number one news app in Japan. Number one in Australia, I believe. Very, very popular. He's been saying the same things about XAI. Another detail about XAI, Bindu Reddy, good follow if you're interested in AI topics, says for former XAI engineer allegedly stole entire Grok code base for OpenAI after cashing out $7 million in stock. Why would you ever jeopardize your career and all those millions these companies throw at you by stealing code? Elon says not allegedly. He downloaded the entire XAI code repository. The logs prove he did it, and he admitted he did it. So there's this lawsuit where XAI has sued this guy and probably OpenAI to get them to stop using whatever he stole. And then just another little SpaceX thing, Starship is art. This is a view, I believe, of the Starship booster, Super Heavy, as it's towards the edge of Earth's atmosphere or out of Earth's atmosphere. The atmospheric pressure goes down, and the way the rocket plume is shaped gets spread out more. So Starship is art. I thought that was kind of cool. Elon reposted that detail. On a personal note, another personal note, in addition to my 2,750 followings and 100,000 followers on X, my wife is opening a cafe and co-working space. I had this idea about a combination co-working space and gym a while back. It is coming together. This is going to be in Krabi, Thailand. Ground floor will be a cafe, and my mother-in-law will be making dresses, so it's called the Casual Dress Co-working Cafe. I posted about this on X a few times. There's upstairs is going to be a regular, there's going to be a sort of like a meeting space room that you can also work in if we're not doing meetings. A regular working room that has decent views of the mountains. On the third floor, there will be a quiet room in the backside. And in the front room, there will be the fitness room. And we've installed a functional trainer with a bench. Just installed a treadmill and exercise bike are coming. I just got my adjustable dumbbells. I actually just ordered a smaller set of adjustable dumbbells for people who don't lift as much weight as I do. Um, Generally speaking for women, but maybe some men will use them. So this is all coming together. When you're on the treadmill, when you're on the bike, and maybe one other spot in the room, you'll have this even better view of the mountains from the third floor. And in addition, right behind me, we will have printing and copying services for monthly members. So this idea is coming together. It's probably going to flop. I'm probably going to lose money, but I know how much we're spending. The rent on the building is like $520 a month. It's a 1-year lease. How much can I lose? Right? We're spending some money on some things, but it's like, it's a small investment and maybe it works, but it's basically, let's create a place where my wife gets to do what she likes to do, which is she loves cafes. So she'll have a cafe. My mother-in-law can have her dress business. Maybe people walk in and see her dresses and buy a custom dress from her. And I love co-working spaces. So, my wife owns it all. My wife runs it all, but I get a place I can play. I'm building my play area. And hopefully I can recruit if anybody knows a young Thai engineer, young Thai engineering student, young Thai person who likes building things, we can start building the pod car prototypes. I want to build the first pod car prototype. We now have a good space to work. And then just another cute little detail. Who is more obsessed? If you follow me on X, I've been obsessed with the Israel-Arab conflict. Elon has been crazy obsessed with what's going on in Europe, with violent crime, with immigration around the world. I've been less obsessed with that topic, more obsessed with Israel and Arab world, Gaza, whatever, Houthis in Yemen. But the other choices, and this poll is still running, I believe, last I checked. I think this poll is still running for another 2 hours, maybe, on X. So Fred hating Tesla, that's Fred Fudstone from Electrek. Fred, actually, I can't remember Fred's real last name. I only remember Fred Fudstone. 40.9% leading. Dan O'Dowd hating FSD, 38%. So I thought that Elon was really obsessed with Europe and I was really obsessed with Israel, but apparently the 320 people who voted believe that Fred and Dan are more obsessed than Elon and I. So that's entertaining. Power generation can only efficiently be distributed a few hundred miles, so move here to Arizona. Power generation will be everywhere. Energy transport. I believe that energy transport can be less expensive if done right. I know Elon's talked about in the past. I forget whether I think you do it with DC wiring. I don't claim to understand it. Energy production near demand is. I think it's not as important as you think it is, but it's still like, why not generate it close to where the demand is? Stop energy utilities from controlling production. This is a big deal, Mark. I've looked around the U.S., at least in Florida, there's like no solar farms that aren't controlled by a utility. It's very unusual to see solar farms that aren't controlled by utilities. I think Texas is one of the few places where you can actually do energy production that's not blocked by utilities. The utility special interests control the state governments, and they interfere with people. Like if you want to put more than 10 kilowatts of solar on your roof in Florida, it's like a much more difficult. Like you have a roof that's perfectly capable of handling 20 kilowatts of solar, but the utility doesn't want you to do more than 10 kilowatts, and the state makes it difficult. And I'm not saying it's impossible. It's just like they make it more difficult from a regulatory approach. Like, why wouldn't you want houses over producing solar? Jimmy says, do you have or plan to have children with your Thai wife? Yes. We are hoping. One of the fundamental purposes in my life right now is to have children. We are hoping to have children. I am having fun trying. That's true. Fred Lambert. Oh, Lambert. Frederick Lambert. Lambert. He's Quebecois. He's sort of Frenchish. Will Starlink IPO in 2026 or 2027? I believe they have said that Starlink will IPO. I don't think they've given a date. We'll see. What are my views on the $250 million lawsuit? I think I did a video on. I think you're talking about the verdict against Tesla from a accident. Please check out my channel. I did a video on it. I think that it's very likely that that number will be reduced dramatically, and there's a strong chance that it'll be reversed on appeal. But there's also a strong chance that after the judge, I don't think the judge has issued a final ruling, so it's a $250 million verdict or $236 million verdict. It's not a $236 million award. After the judge deals with it, somewhere, the odds are that it'll be resolved in some way, settled or something like that before we get an appellate decision. So I'm not really terribly worried about that. Okay, a little bit more, a little bit of Elon politics. So Elon has gotten, who's already very political on X, he's gotten more political. So I think this is this Arab guy who's talking about why does Britain today have more extremists in the Middle East and more rapists rivaling the Islamists support Sudan and Africa and Pakistan, um, and do not let them harm their children. There's this perceived, like, I don't know how much is real. I haven't dove into this. My sense is that there's a huge problem with migrants in the UK and some European countries raping young women. A lot. And then the governments protecting them, protecting the rapists, arresting people who complain about it, not deporting rapists from Pakistan, wherever. I know Pakistan is the big one in the UK, but there's this huge problem, and the governments are trying to cover it up. They're trying to protect the rapists and not protect the people. And there's movements in many countries to change things. And I think this is another UK thing. Elon is pushing. I think the British are like arresting people who are putting up British flags. They're tearing down British flag. Like if you're holding up a British flag, that's now racist or threatening or against social order. I think it was Epping, someplace in the UK, that the judges are ruling against the people, the government's ruling against the people, the police are harassing the British people, and they're protecting the migrants who are coming in. And I predicted, somebody disagreed with me, that the European governments are going to allow migrants to vote, refugees, whatever, to vote, because they are afraid, they're terrified of their own people stopping them from destroying their countries. So so that's all I have. I will again celebrate Elon replying to my post, and let's see what's going on in the chat. Per Judy Collins, but clouds got in the way. Solar doesn't work well in most places, even here in North Arizona during current monsoon race season. Look, solar isn't perfect and it doesn't work all the time, but you have batteries for when it doesn't work. And if it doesn't work here, it's not raining everywhere, it's not cloudy everywhere. The clouds do not cover the entire Earth at once. They don't cover the entire country at once. They don't cover the same, they generally speaking don't. And if it's cloudy, I think something like 90% of UV comes through. I forget the number. It doesn't mean it doesn't work at all. It might reduce the effectiveness a little. Yeah, I mean, the point from a planetary perspective is put solar where it works well. Put the solar panels where it works well first, and then worry about the rest later. Okay, so I've covered a lot. Monsoons last months. Yeah. There's some German problem where there's a Dunkelspiel or something like that, where there's a week or two where it's bad winter. Look, I'm in Thailand, and I'm in rainy season right now, and the sun shines quite a bit. I don't know how much time you spent in these places, Jim. I'm sure there are places where solar won't be effective or will be less effective. I'm sure there's times where solar will be less effective, but globally, solar will be very effective. And we need a lot more solar. And if we don't, look, China's generating a massive amount of solar. They're laying out a massive amount of solar. They're producing a massive amount of energy through solar. If we don't catch up, if we don't start pumping out solar production and solar energy generation, now I don't necessarily mind being behind China. I'm not even, I'm in Thailand. I'm an American citizen. I'm an American resident of Florida, but I'm not in America that much right now. I'm a nomad. This is more your problem if you're there than it is my problem. I see solar panels here in Thailand. I hopefully will build a house in the next year or two, and we'll put. My plan is whatever house we build or buy, it's going to have a roof that's appropriate for solar. We're going to have a ton of solar on it. We're going to overproduce solar because we're going to have. We already have 1.5 electric vehicles. I probably should post it if I can find the picture of it later or check my ex. We bought I bought my mother-in-law a 800 watt what is it, 1.2 kilowatt battery, electric. I want to call it a golf cart, but it's not that good. Golf carts have more power. Golf carts are better on, more agile. But basically a 5 or 6 passenger vehicle that is very slow, like 10, 15 miles an hour, but my mother-in-law can get around better than walking on this thing and go to the market and go pick up the kids at school. And it's charging downstairs right now, blocking my car from charging. So anyway, lots of good news with Tesla, lots of good news with SpaceX, lots of good news with XAI. If and I encourage you, if you're not on X, X is the #1 news app in probably the whole world, multiple countries. Lots of great things. I think XAI sued Apple. X and XAI sued Apple for antitrust violations for how they're not they're promoting ChatGPT and effectively not including X, let's say, on a trend, or XAI on a trending list when it's the #1 app. Like, it should be appearing on trending lists, and they're suppressing, and not just XAI, they're suppressing other AI apps. It's not a scooter, it's a four-wheeler. I think you could argue it's a six-seater, but really the front row is the driver. And then there's room for two small people in the second row and third row. Warren, what are your thoughts on Tesla using small nuclear reactors instead of solar panels next to their data centers? I think Elon's feeling is that solar is the most effective route. I don't know enough about small nuclear reactors. I used to follow this stuff very closely. My impression is it's hard to scale nuclear. It's not that it's not viable, it's just really hard to scale it. There's challenges. What do you do with the waste, or how do you deal with it? All these things are solvable problems, but it's like solar is cheap to deploy and easy to deploy at scale. Nuclear is expensive to deploy and expensive to deploy at scale. And if you do solar and batteries, I think you're doing better than if you do small nuclear. But I'm not claiming I know. You asked me what my thoughts are. My thoughts are that solar and batteries are probably a better investment than nuclear. That's my sense of it. And why would you build a small nuclear reactor if you're going to power an AI data center? Build a big nuclear reactor, or build multiple small nuclear reactors. I think nuclear, if you do it right and you amortize it over the life of the power plant, it may be fairly competitive. And Elon says we should do nuclear too, but it's just the #1 thing that's going to make us a Kardashev scale civilization is solar, 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 battery, 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 battery. Can you sell the extra energy produced by solar back to energy companies in Thailand? I believe the answer is no. Call it like net metering or something like that. I don't believe that people who put solar on the roof sell it back to energy companies. My plan is simple. The reason I want excess solar is because in Thailand, and I think in many countries, people turn the air conditioning off when they're in a room, when they're not in a room. I want the air conditioning on all the time, everywhere. And it doesn't matter if it's wasteful because it's free electricity. I want the AC running. I'm not saying it's running constantly, but I want the air conditioning units on. I don't want any room to get unnecessarily humid because then you get mold. I don't want to walk into a room and be hot. I want the air conditioning on all the time. It doesn't have to be like 21 Celsius. It could be 28 Celsius. I don't care. And when I lived in Florida, we had the temperature set at 77 Fahrenheit. We didn't have it set at 68. But I want it running all the time so that the air is not humid and you don't get mold. Thorium is the small nuclear reactor option because it doesn't produce plutonium and other. Look, there's lots of small nuclear options. None of them scale. None of them have scaled. I think China is doing nuclear at some scale, but they're doing solar a lot more than they're doing nuclear. Like, if you think nuclear is the best, why isn't China doing more nuclear? The answer is because solar scales better. Robert Hirsch says running the AC all the time would cause global cooling. I hope so. Mark says you cuddle more in a cold bedroom. I think there's pretty solid evidence that you sleep better in a cold bedroom. But I'm not even talking what the temperature's set at. I'm not saying you set it at 68 degrees. You just keep going. If every room is set at 80, that's better than the rooms going to 90. And if you have the air conditioning running, you're dehumidifying, and that's better. And I want to be able to have enough electricity to overproduce, and maybe you don't use it all, and then you don't worry about charging the car, whatever. It's not that nuclear can't scale, it's just we've never seen it scale, and therefore I don't know how likely it is to scale. It's like when people talk about 3D printing houses. It's a great idea. No one's ever scaled 3D printing houses. Why? I don't know. Just a thought for you. There's a great Substack sort of like a blog or email list called Construction Physics. Highly recommended if you're into like why does construction costs never go down? Like the cost of everything else has been per unit has been going down. Not everything else, but a lot of things have been going down. Why is it that home construction and commercial building construction keeps getting more expensive? Per square foot, however you measure it, it's not the cost. We're not getting cost reduction in those things like we're getting cost reductions in other things. Why is that? Okay. We've been going for about 50 minutes. I usually like to go over an hour, but it is approaching bedtime. I want to thank Mark in particular for moderating the chat. I want to thank everyone else for watching and paying attention. I think I've covered everything I want to cover. So thanks everybody so much for watching. Everybody have a good night, and look forward to the casual dress co-working cafe. Sorry, Robert says, when do you think Boring Company will really take off? Sometime in the next 5 years, we'll see Boring Company really start to scale. I think they have to nail down tunneling more miles per week. Like I think they're unfortunately not achieving the goals we were hoping for in terms of being able to tunnel 50 miles a year per tunnel boring machine. That's the challenge. PYGKLB says housing is less expensive when built in a factory. You want to think that, but it hasn't scaled. And Construction Physics talked about that specific topic. So look up Construction Physics, search to his blog, and you can find him talking about it. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.